Homeland Security Secretary Janet Napolitano said she was really super sorry after she issued a report that was singling out troops returning home from Iraq and Afghanistan. She said it might be a potential terrorist risk. Then she said really sorry. Byron York is the chief political correspondent for the Washington Examiner. Byron, first of all, I mean, you want to talk about disenfranchising the troops. Here you go. You want to make an enemy of people. You call them and say, look, you know what, I think these guys are a risk. And then you don't come out against it. You say, hey, I'm really sorry. I wish I could have changed that Washington legalese.
Well, she apologized for that one small part of the report.
She said she wishes she could have,
not for the rest.
Right. And she just said, I wish I could have changed the language on that footnote. She didn't say that our troops are not a risk.
Exactly. And, you know, the thing about this report is that if there are, in fact, any groups, right-wing or otherwise, that are conspiring to commit violence, that's one of the reasons we have an FBI, and we want to see that stopped. But the key phrase of this new report is on the first sentence of the first page, where it says, Homeland Security, quote, has no specific information that domestic right-wing terrorists are currently planning acts of violence. It lists no groups. It lists nothing that they've done.
Wait a minute. Wasn't there a left-wing list out recently, and it was named ELF? Right?
Well, I'm glad that you mentioned that. There was a report that DHS did in January called Left-Wing Extremists Likely to Increase Use of Cyber Attacks Over the Coming Decade. Now, that did list some groups like Earth First and the Ruckus Society and the Earth Liberation Front and some specific things that they had done. So it seems that they had a little more meat on the bones on that one.
Why would you have a list that says, okay, there's some things here that show concern because we're seeing these things, and now we've got this one that has nothing?
Well, it's speculation, and as you know, it's kind of speculation saying that in hard times, perhaps disaffected people, perhaps veterans who have training and weapons, will somehow be, you know, led to rebel against the government. Look, they look back to Oklahoma City and Timothy McVeigh. But, you know, what was the Unabomber? I mean, there are lots of disaffected people out there. Like I said, if they're planning to do anything,
there are always crazy people.
That's what the FBI does.
Yeah. Okay.
And in the Impact segment tonight, as you may know, Homeland Security issued a memorandum saying that the feds are worried about the resurrection of right-wing terrorism, which could include some military people returning from war fronts in Afghanistan and Iraq. Well, that has angered some people, so Homeland Chief Janet Napolitano is clarifying.
I really do want to stress to the veterans out there watching this today, that report did not, and we do not mean to suggest that veterans as a whole are at risk of becoming violent extremists.
All right, joining us now from Washington with reaction, Fox News strategic analyst Colonel Ralph Peters, author of the book Looking for Trouble, Adventures in a Broken World. And Colonel Peters wrote a column for the New York Post today excoriating Mrs. Napolitano. But you don't really believe, Colonel, that she wanted to insult American veterans, do you?
Not openly. I think what's really troubling, Bill, is I think this report is a snake that slipped out of the cage. I do believe that there are people within the Obama administration on that bizarre Hollywood-Harvard axis who really have a disdainful view of our troops. I mean, they don't know any of our troops, and so they really do see them as, in the Hollywood image, you know, the drunken, drug addict, violent vet waiting to explode. And there is some animosity, whether it's Freudian or whatever. But, you know, with Napolitano, I couldn't figure out why she keeps bringing up Timothy McVeigh all the time as the only example. And I know she worked on the McVeigh case, the Murrah building bombing. And then this morning when I was working out, the penny dropped. Timothy McVeigh is the only soldier Janet Napolitano ever really got to know. And so for her, every soldier is a potential McVeigh. And look, I don't think they thought that this was going to make a big ruckus because it wasn't supposed to get out, but clearly some people in law enforcement put it online and thought it should get out. And I was furious, Bill. Now I'm just sad.
No, listen, I understand the anger because if you read the memo, it is unnecessary. That's the word. This memo is unnecessary. Yeah. The memo itself says in the first sentence, We don't have any facts to back this up. This is just some theory we were kicking around in a bar someplace. They don't have it in a bar, but that's where it could have been, because it's that far-fetched. Maybe because some right-wingers don't like the Obama administration, feel their guns may be threatened, or, you know, the dollar will collapse, and so they might start trouble, and they might recruit disenchanted ex-veterans. It could happen. It's just nonsense. This is not what our tax money... See, what got me was, what is our tax money being spent on? Okay? Find real bad guys. You don't need to make them up. You know, there are McVeighs out there. Find them. And McVeigh, by the way, was in the first Gulf War, which is what the Colonel's talking about. But I don't believe Napolitano wanted to insult the veterans. I don't believe she wanted to do that.
Yeah, well, I don't believe she wanted to do it openly. I think it's just second nature. I think that's the whole problem. And, you know, you look at this report, and there's so much sickness in it. The idea, for instance, one of the things that really infuriated me is the idea that vets are susceptible to anti-Semitic and anti-Jewish hate groups. Bill, where is the anti-Semitism today? It's on campus among the left. It's in daily costs among the Hamas supporters, Hezbollah supporters. This was crazy. But also, as a former intelligence officer, I was offended by the pathetic quality of it. Now, in intelligence analysis, you do speculation, but it's based upon facts, on things that are corroborated.
No, I agree.
This was an opinion column.
Again, I mean, I'm a taxpayer. I'm paying these people salaries, and they're putting out this kind of... Look, if we want that kind of whacked-out stuff, all we have to do is turn on NBC News, correct? We'll get that whacked-out stuff for free over there. So, I mean, we want our government doing this? Now, there has been an uproar on this, and it's just another thing that the White House, because it all comes back to Barack Obama being able to control the environment, you see? And I'm starting to get a little worried. I don't know whether you watched our report on this Rosa Brooks now being in the Pentagon, Colonel. Are you aware of that?
Yeah. Yes, I am. Bill, a leader has to be a good judge of character. Look at Obama's track record. Bill Ayers, the Reverend Wright, Napolitano. Look, Janet Napolitano may even mean well. I'm sure she does.
I think she does.
But my God. Bill, do you feel safe with that woman as head of the Department of Homeland Security?
I'm not going to give an answer to that because I'd have to think about it. Do I feel less safe now than I did a year ago? Probably not. I haven't reached that point yet. I'm getting troubled by people who are starting to work for the government. That's as far as I can go right now. I'll give it less word.
One mistake's a mistake. It's starting to become a pattern.
Okay, that I agree with. I think that the Obama administration better draw back and better take a good look around at what's starting to mount up. Colonel, again, nice column in the New York Post. We appreciate it. Directly to the federal government. This is the bottom line on this. Federal government has changed from a conservative-oriented federal government under the Bush administration to a liberal-oriented federal government under Obama. That is beyond dispute. When a woman like Rosa Brooks, did you see our reporting on this woman? Rosa Brooks, a crazy far-left LA Times person, now inside the Pentagon, appointed to advise an undersecretary of defense. When that happens, you know the sea change is enormous. So, of course, these people, instead of saying, you know, we might have some Muslim problems, maybe there's a little cell somewhere talking to Pakistan and getting orders. No, it's the Glenn Beck guys. But we don't really have any evidence, but this is what's on their mind because that's the way they think.
I'm not a crook.